a good podcast. Those are hard to do, actually. Podcasts. You're kind of talking nothing. You have to have a plan. Oh, taught children the gift of music. Well, that is remarkable. Hi, Tobin. How are you? How's Oklahoma? I haven't worked with kids in a while. I worked with them when I was in Harlem. They taught poetry. Turned into songwriting because they couldn't stay calm. Had to find a way to make it more interesting. They're infuriating. They really are. Windy. I hope no tornadoes are coming. Ooh. Hi, Val. Hi, guys. You guys like my telephone pants? Telephones! Call me up. Oh. That's ridiculous. Oh no, I didn't update my titles for tonight. 6:59. I gotta get my ukulele and do the theme song. Let's do it. Theme song. Oh, Jesus. Hi. All right. Hi from the Philippines. How is it there? How's the Philippines? Are you gonna clap in the Philippines, Val? Is it sunny there? Warm? Hi, Kryptonite. Hi, Spaghetti Jones. I love when Spaghetti Jones joins. It's a highlight for me. Well, it's 6:59. It might be too close to 7 to do the theme song. It's kind of like a 45-second song rather than 30 seconds. People are going to start clapping any minute. Watch. Hi, Mr. E! What's cracking? We're going to clap for our healthcare heroes together. People are starting. You hear them? It's very enlightening for me. Hi, RB Lion. And Chith K. And peonies. No, I'm doing it wrong still. I know I am. I can't figure it out. Hi, Bob. How are you? I'm good. I'm okay. It was a good day. You know? Clap, everyone, clap! Clapping for our healthcare heroes. Clap for our healthcare heroes, our frontline workers on the front lines. And some would make a better song. And Charlie, get out of my purse. Charlie, come here. Come. Come, Charlie. She's going through my bags. She doesn't understand. Hi, Pauline. Why? Come here. You want to see my dog? There they are, they're clapping! Yay! We're clapping too. Hello! Hello, tiny dog! Masood Darius, Dr. Calvin's son! He's here! He's gonna talk to us tonight about health and travel and all the sorts of questions you guys have. It'll be very fun. You should come and join us. Hi, Dr. Sun. How are you? That little dog. She's such a cute little dog. Go live with Dr. Calvin's son. I still hear them clapping out there. Hello, Dr. Sun. Hi, Eleni. Hi. Hi, guys.
I'm on the computer thing that you sent me.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, let me make sure that you're in there. Let me put you in. Oh, let's take a look. Let's make sure, Dr. Sun. Oops, I got it. Spotlight. Oh, Jesus. Dr. Calvin?
Dr. Calvin?
You just told me Calvin.
Turn your sound off. Just
I
like on
turned
your
it off.
latest device. It is already off?
Yeah, it's off. It's on.
Good.
There's nothing coming from my computer. It's all cell phone. You learned from last time.
How are you? How was your day?
I was it's interesting. I haven't been back to Queens where my grandmother lives for about like 8 years. I've been a terrible grandson.
Where is
no,
she from in Queens?
she's in Elmhurst, the epicenter of epicenters. Yeah.
Yeah, you were helping her sort through some things.
I think we have a family tradition on both sides where we don't leave wills.
Really?
Yeah, my dad didn't leave a will before he died, and my grandfather didn't leave a will before he died.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they're two separate families, but like it's just like I think a general vibe that we think that we're gonna live forever.
It's like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah. So, yeah, I just rolled out of bed and I went straight to see her and try to have her figure out. I mean, it's good for me to know how to figure out like what happens to all his assets. Like he had a separate account to himself, and they have a joint account, and the joint account is fine. It's just what happens to your loved one's money or assets after one passes. So yeah, and then just helping her translate. But they ended up knowing her better than they knew me, so it was just me just being at her side. She looks great. Otherwise, it's a good excuse to see her, and you know, I was able to, you know, catch up, see how she was doing after COVID. She looks even more energetic than she was before.
Wow.
And
You have those genes.
yeah, that side of the family lives a very long time because her mother lived until 104 years old or something. So.
Wow. What?
Yeah. My great grandmother.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know if I want to live to 104.
That depends. Depends on what I'm living through. Like 2020, like this year is canceled. I'm over it.
Yeah, I know.
But you know what? The greatest generation happened after World War II. That's what they called them, right? The greatest generation. So hopefully, this is our World War II. You know, making the most of it.
More frontline workers. Hi, Taylor. In London. So, I'm wondering if I'm sorry you had a sobering day. That does sound like a sobering day. But maybe we can talk about some lighter things.
Yeah, we can talk about anything.
I don't know. So, like, you have a new project. Egypt. Are you going to Egypt?
No, I came back from Egypt. It was a November trip. I was planning a trip to Yemen, and they gave me an opening to visit Socotra Island, which is known as the most place on earth. And I've been trying to go there, but because of a civil war, and they had said that way to get in and out looking. And I was like, when was the last time I was in Cairo? Oh, exactly. I'm lost a bet. For the first time, I'm 10-year. The universe has spoken. So, 27th, 2019, when they showed up in Cairo, and somebody made a video of it, and then 6 months later, we decided to celebrate the anniversary on Wednesday, which was, and it is a tradition of ours, and we world premiered the video, and it killed 3 birds with 1 stone because not only get to show the video, but also have everyone reunite, but also in the rest of the community that's been following us to also look forward into what travel would look like after COVID-19. And a lot was discussed, and we actually got a lot of good ideas down, and we're actually planning for the next trip because of that meeting. So it's very organic. One thing leads to another. I lost a bet to a girl. chased her after Egypt. 10 years later, got 20 strangers to come, inspired someone to make a video on that trip. Video gets premiered, used that as an excuse to get everyone together and reunite and catch up, and then also invite the public, which then inspired us to create the next trip, and which will probably be a road trip across America. And
You think so?
yeah, it's very doable.
It is very doable. So where would you go? Where do you have any places in mind that you'd want to stop on this one?
Yeah, the worst trip I've ever led, and the best trip. Well, not the best. It was the most sorry, not the word worst. The most challenging trip I've ever led was on Route 66 with 3 RVs, and in the United States of America. That was the most challenging trip I've ever led.
Really?
Yeah, because I had said in the meeting there was the expectations that we had set out for ourselves before starting this trip, and we had thought that, you know, given that we were in our home country, everyone speaks English, and, you know, we didn't have to worry about cell service. We had constant Wi-Fi. Everyone, you know, Americans in America, that everything would be fine. But it ended up being anything but. It was very challenging.
Everything went wrong, huh?
Yeah, and those are the best stories. There were a few people on the trip that was at the reunion on Wednesday, and they only had nice things to say, which I give them a lot of credit for, but it was very stressful. And I mean, nothing went wrong. Nobody died. Nobody got hurt. It was just driving RVs are, you know, coordinating 3 RVs is a lot of work. So, but we've done it. We survived. Everyone loves the trip. 2 breakups happened on the trip for the better. We're with better partners now. Yeah, in the middle of the trip. And
What caused them? Can you say any sort of like little?
Read the blog.
Okay.
Everything's public knowledge. I don't want to spoil the ending for you. And I mean, if you get me drunk enough, maybe I'll tell you. But and then now we have that experience. We can do it right the second time around, which I learned from Egypt. Doing it the second time around, it was just so much more rewarding.
Yeah, it's smooth.
And for those of you who are like listening right now who have no idea what I'm talking about, this is for my travel life when I'm not a doctor. I lead something called the Monsoon Diaries, which is a community of people that I met while traveling solo who joined along. And it's an organic thing where we did create trips based on just vibes and going with the flow. Nothing's really planned out per se, but then, you know, as we create the trip, it's super planned out to the point where we even plan the spontaneity. And it's essentially solo travel for people in a group, or group travel for people who hate group traveling. So we bring the solo backpacking experience to a group where there's a lot of freedom. You can do whatever you want. You can split off and join us again. So that's all ingrained in the itinerary, but also we get to see everything. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Ocean House 859 says check out Yellowstone and Grand Teton.
Yep, that is on my presumed list. We might do a part of the Oregon Trail, and then one of the months.
On the Oregon Trail.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, with you know the video game we used to play. Yeah, what was it? Bare Bones. You could set the diet for your family, and then like shoot buffalo virtually. Not that I condone.
I know, really. I loved the Oregon. You would always win if you were a doctor or a lawyer.
I forgot that you could choose your job too. That was a game that I would want to play in lockdown.
Yeah, I really miss that game a lot.
You know, I think it would be nice to just do the Oregon Trail because I like to relive childhood experiences on my travels. So, like when I was in Turkey, I was looking for that thing that my like 11th grade history book.
What?
It was like a photo of the Byzantine Empire or whatever that was on some kid's textbook that I had in 11th grade. And then when I saw it in real life with my own eyes, I was like, holy shit, these things exist.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll see. It's still in the early stages. And a girl on the Egypt trip, she called me today just to catch up. And she gave me the idea on the return trip back after we hit the West Coast, is to take it to Amtrak all the way back. So that is an idea too.
I want to go see some national parks. Right now seems like a good time to be in nature.
It says that the safest things to do right now when you're traveling is camping, outdoorsy, and especially in small groups with people that you know and trust, and you stay together. So that's why it's totally doable, because in an RV, if we screen everyone, right, and then we prepare ahead and no one has symptoms, and we spread out far enough, and some people still don't have symptoms, then you can trust more and more that this RV is safe, and we cohort these RVs, then it works out. And then we clean, and every time we get back in the RVs, we stick together, and essentially that's the Belgian method and how they're keeping their community safe from COVID.
Yeah, are you gonna stay away from public places where you could get it from other people and other things?
I think we will use a lot of precaution and be very discerning where we choose to go in terms of if it's a public place. But if it's outdoors, I think it's fine. I mean, most establishments are, at least in New York, are veering towards keeping their patronage outdoors, like dining outdoors, serving drinks outdoors, and the numbers haven't risen. Right? Yeah, in the park, by the park, or where the neighborhoods that I'm in, there are block parties literally on the block 3 weeks ago that I'm walking. I'm like, this is terrible. But then I'm eating my words right now, shit on face moment, where I'm like, okay, I'm wrong. The numbers have stayed low. My ERs are like, I check the boards all the time. There's no like resurgence of infections at least in my neighborhoods here. So there is something to be said about all the people in Central Park that we all judged 3 weeks ago. No, shit on face. I was wrong.
Right.
So that's encouraging. So we do this road trip. We'll keep everything outdoors to the best of our ability. I mean, we're not going to be like, this is great, let's do a dungeon tour. Or let's go visit a small museum. We might have to avoid those. But that's what we're doing it for. We're doing the great outdoors. We might go camping. And they say camping is one of the safest things to do in COVID. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're trying to figure shit out so that the rest of you watching can also be inspired to get out of your homes safely and responsibly. How do you have the best of both worlds without hurting other people?
Right. And Evico, you are right. Calvin is awesome. And you have not gotten COVID-19 yet.
No,
you don't
I
have
haven't.
the antibodies.
No, I don't have any antibodies ×2, and I haven't gotten sick. My grandmother definitely got sick. My grandfather obviously got sick, but so it's not something like genetic, like my entire family is healthy. It's not the case. But Diana sent me and I remember like intubating a patient that couldn't breathe, and I wasn't wearing what I needed to be wearing. I was like, no, this patient's crying. I was like, fuck it, I'll just own it. The people in the room with me were all gowned up and everything. I was just like, had a little mask, but I had nothing covering my eyes or anything. And I, did the thing, did it really quickly. Bag, but then we spreading the virus in the air, and I'm like running out of the room. The people in the room got sick, but I didn't. I mean, maybe they were exposed to other people too, but they were definitely gowned up before I was. And this is the first week, like the first 2 weeks. This is before I like looked like Iron Man in my PPE.
Yeah.
So Diana sent me a paper that I have up. I'm still reading it. She's too smart right now, so I'm like it takes me a long time to read shit. I can't read. Apparently it suggests that people who've been exposed a lot when they were like growing up or traveling are likely to be naturally immune, because you have antibodies and you have natural killer T cells. There's two different things. The antibodies is your long-lasting alarm system that nixes the virus really early. The killer T cells are things that just destroys shit like fast. It's the reason why you have poison ivy poisoning. Your killer T cells like attack your body. Anyway, apparently the killer T cells may have a memory component where they're like, oh look, a coronavirus, fuck this, and then like destroy it before it spreads. And that only may be acquired if you were a very dirty boy, which I was. I was a very dirty kid. I was a fiend.
Boy, I was too. We went camping a lot and we traveled a lot. So I wonder, because I didn't get it either. And I was sent home from a gig basically in the heat of the.
Did you grow up with pets? Did you also grow up with pets?
Huh?
Did you also grow up with pets?
Yes. I
Okay.
grew up on a farm.
There you go. I think that is like one of the first things we recommended to parents way before COVID-19, that if you're going to raise children, raise them with dogs or cats, like as dirty as they can be, so they'll never develop like really life-threatening allergies. That's why people in developing countries never have allergies. They don't have seasonal allergies. Like think of kids in developing countries, the ones that like have to worry about finding water. People who like do not die today, like that's their like it's tough what they live in, but they do not have seasonal allergies. They don't have anaphylaxis to peanut butter or peanuts in general. That's never been heard of, and there is an acquired component in that their body doesn't overreact because their body's it is a thing of being too clean. I definitely had a lot of allergies to everything because I was too clean, the Asian way. But then when I traveled the last 15 years, I literally would eat food off the ground without cleaning my hands. I'm not going to say what I do at work because I don't want to lose my job. But
It sounds like you're testing fate.
Yeah, well, I mean, because when I'm traveling, I don't have Purell on me, and I'm like looking at my hands, like I don't even trust the water to wash my hands in. It's like fuck it, you know what, whatever. And then it's like 5-second rule. That was the master of the 20-second rule. But that works for me. I'm not saying it could work for other people. Like there are definitely other people who got sick, and I'm like, okay, I hope that I hope you're okay. I don't want you to get sick on my trips. But for me, I was just like, I just risked it, and my allergies disappeared. My seasonal allergies isn't so bad. I mean, like, yeah, I used one of these today just once, but there was a time like 8 years ago where I would go through 2 bottles in a week.
Really?
Like my eyes were on fire all the time. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, I had itchy eyes today too, and I used some right here, but I think that's because my dog licked me at the time. So that gets me every time.
Yeah, so get dirty. That's what I recommend. Like if you're raising kids and it's not too
dirty, go play
let them fall down and get, unless if your kids are not immunocompromised or have no medical problems, are fully immunized, everything's great, blah blah blah, they're totally normal kids, let them fall down and get back on their own. I mean, be their safety net, but like just watch them, right? But don't overly clean everything, don't overly pamper them, so they don't know how to walk on their own, like figuratively and literally. Because the last thing you want them is to die from a peanut allergy. Like I'm allergic to the sun.
Those are some pretty severe allergies. Let me see what they're saying. How many people are dying per day in the U.S.? Brazil is more than 1,000.
Yeah, and I think so. It's interesting because you'll see the United States curve flattening, which is like great, but honestly, it's only flattening because New York is dropping. So it's actually rising everywhere else. The United States is a big country. It's a big fucking country. And New York was the epicenter. So that's why the United States was looking like this, because New York was like this. There were so many people in New York. But if New York,
true.
But if we get our shit together and lock down and then our numbers drop, of course, America is going to be like this. But what about the rest of America outside of New York? Why is it not going down with New York? It should go down with New York if New York is going down, because we have so many more people.
They're starting to go up. They're starting to catch up.
Right. If New York is going like this and America is going like this and New York goes down, America should go down too. But America's looking like this while New York is going down. Now, the only reason America stays like this is if everywhere else outside of New York is keeping that high. So you have to look at graphs with a grain of salt, with a grain of salt there. So I think Brazil's still beating the United States because you're on the upswing. And you have favelas. You have much more of a dense communities. Like we have the outer boroughs in New York City that are very densely packed. them. Not that I agree with certain politics or the reasons behind it, but they're also their own people. And, you know, we're all human beings. I get where it's coming from, where people are been so on for so long. Like, I want to travel. Like, I'm like trying to find ways to like sneak a trip in internationally. I know that Mexico and the United Kingdom are completely open for travel. Like, I can sneak a trip right now and do this IG live at midnight in London, but I know it's better not to because they won't quarantine you. But I know this because I definitely peeked. I didn't act on it. I looked at, but I didn't touch. But
yeah.
Cuba, you could take a ship from the Gulf down to Cuba, right?
Yeah, you can take a ship to Cuba. I mean, but the thing is, like, you can't. Would you be allowed into Cuba?
Yeah. I think they would quarantine you.
Yeah, they would force a quarantine for the first 2 weeks. That's a big drag to start your trip. Yeah. You could fly to Cuba. Technically, that's actually allowed, but you have to have a good reason to visit family. Trust me, I mean, I'm the guy that visited Cuba when there was a ban. That was back in 2014. But there was no travel ban to Cuba. You were not allowed to spend money in Cuba. You could go to Cuba, but not. That was the ban. So I didn't. I paid a friend of mine to pay for me. I paid a British dude. And I led a group of 45 people there.
What about Canada? You could go to Canada.
I would love to go to Canada. I mean, I was even planning the trans-Canadian, you know, road trip through Banff, and go to Vancouver, which I had not been, you know, properly yet. Go to Whistler, but Canada would quarantine me for 2 weeks. So I do quick trips. So if I'm going to get quarantined 2 weeks there and then self-quarantine for 2 weeks here, you know, that's already a month off. It's not a great way to start or end a trip. I do these 48-hour turnarounds.
When do you think the earliest is that you may be able to travel? Do you have any estimates?
I would consider a road trip in August and just monitor. Internationally, I would consider an international trip 20 minutes ago, but I think the safest thing is when you wait for a vaccine. I do like the concept of air bridges. Air bridges are when one country's infection rates are low and another country's infection rates are similarly low, and then you create this bridge and you only allow the citizens from each country to come. So basically from one safe neighborhood to another safe neighborhood, and these air bridges. So basically anyone who boards the airplane will be, you know, those citizens of that place only. And they can then fly into that country where their citizens are similarly lower, like the infection rates are very low. I mean, it's tough because I support DACA and Dreamers and all that stuff, so I feel guilty, like how you have to prove, you know, all these things in this. So it's a privileged point of view to be saying this from, but it does allow for the possibility of leaving the country more safely than what it is now.
All right. So some people are asking us questions. So let's take a look. Hi from Germany as well. At this corner, so in Portland, Oregon, they're throwing group parties. Are they outside or are they inside group parties? That's my question, Ebico. You asked, what is your advice for staying safe? Do you have any notes on that?
How to stay safe? Like, it depends on what your risk tolerance is. I always give this example. I have a friend that drives fast. Like, he's anal retentive of everything in his life. I don't think he's listening right now, thank God. He's super anal retentive, but I love him to death. And he drives really, really, really fast, like completely opposite. Like, he would speed on like 100 miles per hour on the FDR drive, which is no bueno. And people who are in the front seat were just like, I've had friends like demand to get out of the car. Like, fuck this, get me out of the car right now. Because he just drives super fast. But I know, and I've known him for a long time now, if you convince him to drive slowly just that day, hey, can you like drive slowly? I'm like maybe a little PTSD from a car crash I was, grew up with, just drive slowly for me. He will more likely crash his car, changing his habits all of a sudden than doing what he's comfortable with. So I don't. When you say ask how to stay safe, what has been working for you this far? What have you kept? What has kept you alive? Have you been like, surviving Frogger? Have you been like crossing highways? Like you know yourself best, and I would caution you from changing your habits so drastically, like cold turkey, that you might go into what we call withdrawal, where you like mess it up more and actually, ironically, catch the virus. Like my life has been full of irony the last 3 months. I mean, my life has been full of irony in general for the last like 30 years. Life is ironic. You like do something to prevent it, you might catch it. So I caution you from doing anything too drastic. You know yourself best. Mark it off slowly but surely. Change your habits gradually, so you're always in your comfort zone. Because the last thing I want for you is to try something because it works for me, but it doesn't work for you, and you run into a burning building. Because I'm more comfortable running into a room full of sick COVID patients. I know exactly. I can very fast. My brain is operated so like how much. I have a countdown on the back of my head. How much time am I spending in this room without PPE, or with PPE? And I actually instinctively walk out of the danger zone before my time is up, which probably maybe why I haven't been sick. But for you, might not have that internal clock, and you might catch yourself like 10 minutes in there. It's like, oh my God. And by then it's too late.
Okay, so we have more questions from people. Did Epico answer? What an amazing answer. I lived in a cabin in the woods. Started that 10 years ago. My mother says true. How's Nala and the turtles?
She's great. Nala's not here right now. I was going to pick her up. Apparently, the turtles, I have no idea. I don't know who they are, what they are. Like I had 2 turtles when I was 3 years old. One was named Buddha. The other one was named Jesus. And Buddha ate all of Jesus's food. It's a story I love to tell. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I love that story. But it ended up like Buddha lived, Jesus did not. I think it was just 1 turtle left, and I was 3. And that's the story that my dad and my mom told me. And we just didn't know there was a turtle. We thought that 1 turtle died on its own because we never took care of it. I know it's cruel, but I was 3 years old. What did I know? This was after the fact when I found out about it. And then just like a few months ago, we found 1 turtle. Then we found 2, and now it is 4. So where did they come from? I have no idea. This miracle of life. Buddha and Jesus mated and created babies. I don't know.
This is a slow discovery.
Yeah. Maybe there's 6 more. I don't know.
Turtles. Okay. What's your favorite country? Someone would like to know.
It's like choosing favorites among children. I have a list that I go on. Luckily, I have a map in front of me. All right. So they're all my favorites. They're like relationships. They've all changed my heart in different ways, and I haven't forgot any of them. They're all like people in my life, and some clicked, and some are like, you know what? And let me try. I would go back and revisit it again because maybe it was, we had an off first impression, and then the other people are like, I loved it up to a point in my life where it worked for me back then, but it won't work for me now. And it's like, people. I can't really choose a favorite. Most fascinating, weirdest will be Myanmar and North Korea and Turkmenistan. Most beautiful will be Antarctica, Namibia, and Greenland. Most magical will be New Zealand. The country I'll go back to over and over and over again, even though I promise I'll never go to the same country twice, is India, or generally more South Asia now, because I just went back to Pakistan for like the 2nd time, and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka recently. The most fun is Cuba. The most fun ever. That was the first time anyone's had stood up for me. New York City is my one and only love. One of my favorite cities, other than New York City, is Budapest. There's just so many more, but those are my top.
Very good.
Best food, India, Iran, Japan, Spain.
Spain has food.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I visited Barcelona.
Yeah.
No.
La Champaneria.
Is it safe to walk on the beach with kids?
It is safe to walk on the beach. I think it's fine actually to play in the water. I don't know why they prevent swimming, or maybe it's to prevent congregating. As long as no one's spitting and coughing in your face, the beach is fine. You want to be next to a place with this high amount of wind. So there's a lot of good airflow by any body of water or ocean. So I think beaches are fun.
Could that blow the virus into you?
You could, but the chances of the virus blowing into your face in that amount of surface area is like so low that you would probably get more benefits getting that vitamin D from the sun and mental health wise than the chances of that. Yeah, of course, you step outside, but then same thing, you could like get the virus from staying indoors too when your family member goes out for a grocery run.
Yep.
So like you have to know yourself best. Like for me, I suck at beaches. I grew up refusing to go to the beaches. I would cry when my family took me to the beach and made me take off my shoes to like walk on the beach because I was so scared of everything. I was so scared of leaving. I would totally have screwed up a beach trip. I would have like ran into somebody with COVID. It's tough. I'm like allergic to the sun. Like I have to put on hydrocortisone cream. Yeah, I'm not this like adventurous. I'm a badass. I could do whatever the fuck I want. That's a persona I give, but it's a fake exterior to protect the kid that writes in journals all the time and is too scared to go to the beach. I travel to remind myself that I'm still like there's another part of me that I need to discover, pushing myself to do things that are not comfortable. I like staying at home and doing nothing. That's who I really am, but it's not good for me. So I do go to the beach. I do take hikes. I do road trips, but those are all things I'm not very comfortable with because I never grew up on it.
Yeah, I understand that. I get that for sure. Do you ever you don't go to the beach then on your trips?
I do because everyone loves to go to the beach and, you know, I'm happy to oblige. But if nobody wants to go to the beach and no one raises it, I kind of would be like, oh, thank God, like, let's keep going. Because I'm more of an urbanite. I'm a city kid. But every trip, someone wants some water. And I totally get it. I totally respect that. And I love any means to, you know, do something different. So we do it. If people want to go hiking, I'm never going to say no.
Hi, Shazadil, by the way. And watch North Korea on YouTube. Scary. Oh, someone wants to know about your coal train ride?
That is one of the coolest travel experiences you can do right now. For anyone who's watching, if there's one sustainable, soul-enriching, and it does not take away anything from the local people, that has a minimal impact, carbon-wise, and on the local population, while giving the rewards of an ultimate travel experience that will make you cry and understand your place in the universe in a way that nothing else has ever done for me other than Egypt horseback riding. And it's totally free. No transactions, nothing about like, oh, I'm paying, I'm like this trickle down economics. Where's the money going to? Am I paying them enough? It is totally free. It is hitchhiking on top of the iron ore train in Mauritania.
Where?
In Mauritania. It's the country south of Western Sahara, Morocco. It's right next to Mali, and it's north of Senegal. Mauritania. Mauritania. Yeah, it's basically the Sahara Desert, and the train is known as the backbone of the Sahara. And what it does is that Mauritania has rich iron ore deposits, and since the 60s, they would shuttle like the iron they mine in the middle of the country in, I don't know, a little northeast, right next to the Western Sahara, and it curves around to the coast where they load the ships, and the ships bring the iron to like everywhere else in the world to build buildings or Iron Man suits, whatever. Little iron. And the train is free. You can hop on it, regardless if it has and full of iron ore or if it's completely empty. The train stops at different stops along the way, and these locals just jump on, free ride with food, supplies, fish, whatever it is from the coast, and then bring it to the villages along the railway. And this free train literally sustains life along the Sahara. These tribal villages who suffered from a huge drought in the 70s, like they almost died, all migrated not necessarily to cities, because they don't like cities. Sometimes they want to keep their nomadic lifestyle, but along the train tracks, where the train tracks then delivers and drops food for them. It's totally free. I'm not worried about like promoting it too much that everyone's now going to oversaturate it and just travel. It is so difficult to get to. Like to get to Nouadhibou, where the train, one of the terminals of the train, is one of the most difficult cities to get into. We had to take a road trip all the way from Casablanca to down to Western Sahara, which is considered a war zone. It's not. It's a conflicted territory. No gunfire. But it's not the safest of places. And then we crossed over no man's land, where you see in my videos like all these burnt out cars and tanks and trucks, and these like people selling weapons, and it's this unreal like a 10-mile run, 10-minute drive, and then you enter Mauritania into Nouakchott. Nouakchott, there's no internet. There's only maybe like 2 hotels, and that's when you start the train ride.
Whoa!
It's
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about like oversaturating with travel vloggers, because the very act of trying to get there alone will just intimidate or just be too much of a deterrent, because it was not easy. But National Geographic did a gorgeous video of the train ride. It won like a National Geographic Movie of the Year, called "The Backbone of the Sahara," the Mauritania Train Railway, and it's like one of like the meccas for all hardcore like adventure travelers. And it's really cool because you literally, when the train stops, there's no timetable. It could stay there for 5 minutes, or it could stay there for 30 minutes or 10 hours. You don't know. But once it stops, you assume the worst and you run. Once it stops, everyone just runs, mad dash. You pick a car, you climb on top of the railway, you get into the car, and then that's it. And then you just wait for the train to move before it pulls away. And there are literally people that like fell off the train as it was pulling away, and they're like, fuck it, I'll take the one tomorrow. Literally, we were just seeing people like, oh no, I was too late, as the train was like, vroom, starts moving. And the locals are like, shit. And they would give us things like, take it to this end, drop it at this time. And they was like, we'll take the one afterwards. And the friends get separated. And like, it's a shit show. Nobody died when we were there, but it is considered dangerous. But when we went, we picked a car, we all stayed together, we set up a tent, and then we like just watched the world go by. And we were on it. It can go on for like 23 hours, and ours was 19 hours before we decided to get off. It's hop on, hop off.
Does it stop? It stops for long enough for you?
It stops every like 1 or 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours at a stop, and then you have like either 5 minutes or 3 hours. You don't know. So you can't really want to take a risk going to the bathroom. So we peed in water bottles on buckets. Yeah. If you needed to poop, no way. You have to hold that in.
So don't need a lot of fiber.
Don't need a lot of fiber, no.
Before you leave.
But a lot of us peed in buckets. We had to, like, the women, when, peed in the bucket, luckily we had a tent to cover everything. But I remember, like, just standing there for, like, 30 minutes, like, waiting to pee with my pants down, and everyone's looking away. I was like, well, this is really awkward. Yeah, and there was a point where I was like lying down and looking up, and the sky was full of stars, like the most stars I've ever seen in my life. And I was crying, just like, not crying, like welling up with tears. It's like, this is life. Yeah, that was 4 months ago. It's that photo on my Instagram with the stars and the sunset and us in the train.
They said the iron ore was so real, I could feel it on the video. Seriously.
Yeah. You can't sleep on it. It's too rough for most. I still passed out on it because I can sleep through anything, but it's one of the roughest train rides ever.
Kay Duffy said she's with you if you ever do it. I also am.
It was so good that I was like, I'm never going to do this again because it'll never be as much fun. You know the ending scene? No, not the ending scene. Remember this scene in Lost in Translation? Have you seen Lost in Translation? Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson? He says to her, let's never do this again because it'll never be as much fun. I'll make exceptions if the right people come, because that is something that I would do again. But I think everyone but one traveler I've met have said, after they've done it, it was the most amazing thing I've ever done, but I'll never do it again.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's like a really, really, really scary roller coaster ride, I would say.
It was a 19-hour roller coaster ride.
Can the virus spread? Laxmi Sundaresan says, can the virus spread through shoes that we wear outside and come back home?
Very low infection rates of shoes, actually. They say that you have a higher, well, at least statistically, you have a higher chance of catching the virus wearing shoe covers. Whoops, that's what I've been doing. Because people don't take it off properly than anything on the shoe. Yes, shoes do carry the virus, but we leave our shoes out. Some people don't. I leave my shoes outside. I take off my shoes before I go inside. And but most people don't. Most people wear their shoes inside, and that's a problem. That could be an issue. But if you don't do that, and some families don't, there's really no issue. They are saying the shoe covers actually cause more infection rates. I still wear shoe covers because it's good for my mental health and sanity. It's just like, ew, gross. But now that I read the paper, humans are emotional creatures. Okay, we're very bad at following logic. There is a paper that says N95s are no better than regular surgical masks. We knew this. I known this for a while. Right? They're saying, oh, masks are not really useful. The data is still out. But I wear a mask because it makes my behaviors more safe. I do it out of respect for my colleagues. I do it out of respect for other people around me because I'm like saturated in COVID. And it's not going to kill me by wearing a mask. I'm not going to die. Like I have so much privilege right now. Like I have a house with running water and a roof over my head, and a cat, partner, my mom. I mean, I'm alive. Okay, I can wear a fucking mask. Fine. Even though it's on open trails and it bothers me. So I do it out of respect. But I know the data, like it's tough for me as an emotional creature to read the data and know like this really isn't by the numbers helping. But if it alters my emotional behavior so I can be more safe to protect other people around me, I think it makes a world of difference. They cannot be tracked by data and paper alone. So, but that's me. That's myself. I'm not imposing on other people. You might wear a mask and fuck shit up and like cause a car accident. You might wear a mask and be allergic to the cloth and develop an allergic reaction and get anaphylaxis. I have to intubate you. I mean, I don't know. But what works for me is I've evolved on my views.
What?
I've evolved in my views. Yeah, I changed. I mean, I remember in the beginning, I was just like, no, only wear masks inside in healthcare settings before you intubate somebody to keep yourself safe. But now this whole wearing masks outdoors and everything, I think when the pandemic, yeah, like it definitely has reduced a lot of infection rates by and large because humans are emotional creatures. Wearing a mask creates that idea that there is an invisible enemy outside that's killing people. And it's not so much the mask in of itself, whether it's data-wise, it does make a difference or not. We're still waiting for that numbers. It does alter human behavior for the better, for the good of the community, at least in New York City.
Yeah, so do it for the community. Do it for your community.
I'm a team player.
Should the mask fit snug is the question.
Yeah, I mean, the mask can be harmful if you're wearing it incorrectly. I love seeing people wearing a mask where like, I don't know which side. This fell on the floor. This could be covered in COVID. And people are like, oh, well, I'm wearing a mask anyway. All right. And I'm inhaling COVID as I speak because it was on the floor. All right. And you're wearing it wrong. But I'm wearing a mask. Is it safe now? Not necessarily. Is it an old, dirty mask? Some people just, but so should you wear a mask that's snug? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do something, do it right. That's what I recommend. Don't half-ass it because half-assing it. It's like that guy that drives really fast. You tell him to half-ass it. But I was like, can you try to drive slowly today? And he'll definitely half-ass it because he never drove in slow before. And he's going to flip his car. So, do your best. I mean, if you're going to do something, do it right. If you're destroying the mask or you're wearing dirty masks or and it's not snug or it's falling, it becomes a fomite, a vector of transmission.
When should you replace a mask? That's my own question.
If it starts to smell, no, you should replace it as often as possible. These masks are designed to be disposable. I mean, cloth mask, I would say just launder it, send it to the laundry. But surgical masks and N95s, which are designed to be much better in infection control, we throw those out after 1 to 2 patient encounters because it's dangerous to keep them on for too long. But obviously, it's not practical. If you had a limited number of masks, then you should, then in my experience, I had to hold on to it for like 8 days because I didn't want to have no mask. But ideally, if the resources are available, we would replace it between each patient encounter. In an unideal world like this one, and practically, you do it the best you can. And I have a little IG highlight that describes how often I switch my masks. It's every 3 to 4 days.
Yeah. You're using your P100 mask, though, right?
Yes, I got a P100 because you don't have to swap it out. So You don't have to worry about cleaning it or leaving it to dry. You just put it on and you're done. N95, you have to let it sit for 3 days before you can use it again. Or in my scenario, I'm not that great. I use it for 3 days straight and I throw it out. I'm not a perfect person, but for me, like, I had no choice. I didn't have a P100 at the time. I didn't have an N95. I didn't have anything else. So I wore up to 3 days and then before I wanted to throw it out. And there was one time where I had to wear it for 8 days because I didn't have a replacement. So that's not ideal, but I'm okay. But what works for me might not work for you.
Can you clean an N95 at home if someone's asking?
That's what I love about P100s is that I don't have to worry about replacing any of them until 6 months later. They're replaced every 6 months. So I don't think about it for 6 months. N95s, I have to think about, I remember every night came back from work and I was like, should I spray them down or spray them down? And then someone sends me a video saying that spraying them down with alcohol destroys the mask. I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'm never going to get this right. So yeah, definitely, I should be definitely sick with COVID-19. I was spraying down my N95 with alcohol, which is a way to destroy an N95. So I was definitely inhaling all this virus in the week 2, week 3 when I actually got an N95. Finally, someone gives me something great. I get an N95, a worth its weight in gold, and I fuck it up when I just spray down alcohol. Stanford helpfully did a study after the fact, but luckily nothing happened. But that was a time when I woke up every morning. I was like, oh my God, I have it. So I wouldn't recommend that. Do not spray down the alcohol. I would go to the hospital. Right. I would go to the hospital and find a dry oven, stick it in there, and let it heat it for about 30 minutes.
Not a regular oven.
Not a regular oven. If you want to take that chance,
put it on your oven.
I absolve all responsibility. I told you dry oven. I never said home oven. Somebody said microwave. I've never done it because of the metal. Ugh. Sous vide could be an idea. I think sous vides are safe. Just don't cause a fire. It has to be at least 70 degrees Celsius or 160 degrees Fahrenheit. For at least 30 minutes. UV. Now, if you are the type to have like a UV light, I don't know for what reason, some people with skincare stuff, dermatology, UV, good for acne. You can put it, yeah, I guess so. If you have one of those, if you're fancy,
I do.
Yeah, then you can put it underneath a UV light for about 30 minutes. You can do that up to 3 times before we recommend throwing it out. Yeah. Vaporized hydrogen peroxide. Don't do that at home. Apparently, you have to boil hydrogen peroxide, which is don't do that. I'm not even going to mention it unless you have one in the hospital. But that one you can do for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're done. You don't need to wait 30 minutes. A lot of people were fucking that up because they were doing it for 30 minutes, wearing it and getting really nauseous. Well, yeah, I'm now saturated with hydrogen peroxide. It's not a good smell, but that's why they only recommend 5 to 10 minutes. And then finally, what the inventor of N95 recommends is you wear it one day, and then you leave it for 3 days. You wear mask 2 on day 2, and mask 3 on day 3. So you have 4 rotating masks that you cycle every 3 to 4 days.
UV light ones dangerous to skin and eyes, so be careful there. Someone asked, cloth masks will also work while going outside, right? Is it needed that I should have multiple layers?
I mean, I have an N95 and I wear this. N95 is because I'm more of a risk taker when I go outside. I could be chasing after. I'm a dog chasing cars. Like I'll chase after a squirrel if I want to. I don't know what I'm doing 5 minutes ahead of me. I never know what I'm doing 5 minutes from now. I'm always like playing jazz, which is why this pandemic is weird because as I go out more, I have to plan my route. I hate planning things. That's how people. I always like to travel with me. I do plan everything, but also plan to be unplanned and spontaneous. So it's against my nature, but it's good for me. But so that's why I wear an I-95 just to be safer because I don't know. I might be like, oh, cool, indoor thing, and they'll be like, no one will know, and then I run in. That hasn't happened yet, but like knowing me, I always beg for forgiveness, never ask for permission when it comes to institutions. So I wear 95 and I wear this as a double layer. But for a while I was just wearing this and I think that's fine. But you know your risk tolerance. If you wear an N95 and a cloth mask on top of that and that is too confining and you're getting nauseous because of carbon dioxide toxicity, you're wearing it wrong, then don't wear the N95. You're going to hurt yourself because you didn't get fit tested. you shouldn't be wearing that N95 in the first place. You should give it to a healthcare worker who knows how to wear it or should be wearing it in a healthcare setting. And maybe that cloth mask will be safer for you. However, if you do know how to wear N95 properly, it doesn't bother you, you have been fit tested, and you're wearing it correctly, you're not spreading it, to other people, and you're decontaminating it responsibly, then maybe you should just wear an N95 and no cloth mask. It really depends.
Okay. I respect your thinking. We have a minute, but someone asked if there's going to be a surge in autumn.
Yes.
You really think so?
Yeah. Of course. It's called the flu season. There's always a surge in autumn. It's called flu season. But guess what? COVID-19 has the exact same symptoms as the flu, but let alone you could be asymptomatic too. So it's like fighting a war where like everyone's wearing the same uniform as your side. It's like, oh shit. It's like a more complicated flu season. So how are we gonna, we were already struggling with flu season. Well, like 100,000 people die, 70,000 people die over a whole year. But now you add on top of that a virus where you can be asymptomatic for 25 days, but there's no vaccine, no cure, and it can cause clots and silent hypoxia, which flu kind of also can look like, especially in the first 5-10 minutes in the emergency room. We're kind of fucked unless we're prepared. We can spend the summer preparing for it. Having to keeping the tents outside, having an activated per diem group or traveler nurses and doctors ready to work, just having all the protocols in place. We can prepare for this. Fail to prepare to fail. Yeah, 1 hour time limit. They should announce that.
1 hour already.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think she's gonna.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Just waiting for Dr. Collins to come back as well, so that we can say good night. There he is. Hello, everyone. You. Okay.
We do this every time.
We're back.
Every time.
Every time we talk over.
We talk over that 1 hour, what, max limit that IG Live in this without a warning too. They should like have like a little countdown. It's like, by the way, and tell everyone tuned in is like this, you know, IG Live ends in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. But that means
It actually did. It gave me a timer, but I don't think you can see it.
Oh no, I don't see it. No, maybe not. But I mean, it's only good things, right? Because we have so much to talk about and say and just shoot the shit. Create some sense of normalcy.
Ain't answering these people. Is it raining?
Is it? I know there's a warm front, a high pressure system coming in, but
So humid. I know. I think it's going to be a thunderstorm tonight, guys. Yes, we should be wearing a mask in public. We talked about it a little earlier about
yes,
how it's a sensitive community.
I have my mask or keffiyeh everywhere next to me. But I've been wearing this before COVID-19. Like it's like it was just like a, you know, fashion accent scarf. That it was really good because I would be like, I don't know when I'm going to visit a dust storm or a sandstorm. I'm like, oh no. Or like New York kind of smells sometimes. Definitely when I'm like riding the subway, I'm like, oh my God, thank God I have this. I don't want to move. Right? Getting up and changing seats is rude. So that's why we have I had this before COVID-19. So nothing's changed for me. A lot of people are like, are you taking zinc, taking vitamin D? Are you doing this? Now there's a pandemic. Are you like wearing a mask? And I'm like, yes, I am. But I've been doing all those things before COVID-19. So I don't feel like I've changed my habits or behaviors.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Definitely agreed. I'm definitely keeping up with my zinc. I've always been big on the zinc. Duck liver is big for zinc.
Duck liver? Oh man.
Anybody has access to that.
Yeah, no, hey, I haven't had that in years.
More red. Babblebee says, can anyone join Monsoon Travels? You've been looking for a travel group. Well, I think you found it, girl.
Yes,
this is the safest one to be in.
We take everybody. There's no restrictions in terms of age or obviously race, ethnicity, and you know, socioeconomic impact or disabled or ableness. We take everyone. We have taken everyone. We have taken people who are missing lungs. We have taken people who, you know, can walk. We've taken 60, 70-year-olds and, you know, septuagenarians and post-retirees, widowers, widows, mother-daughter couples. It's not about what you identify as. It's about whether you are okay with our type of travel. Right? It's very rough and, you know, fast-paced and unplanned. It's not like a hold my hand and follow the flag. It's like in your face, and you have to be okay with brute honesty and genuineness. I will tell you, you're being an ass. Don't get back from there, or like don't eat that shit, or don't be a dick. Like I'll say that to your face. I mean, it's like it's real, but I mean that with love and tough love because I'm not here to waste your time. But you can also, yeah, no, it's not following orders. I know I don't give orders. I'm just like, this is what I'm doing. And if you don't want to miss out, then keep up with me. But if you want to do your own thing and split off, then fine. If you want to take that chance, I will tell you what I think. And you have to accept the consequences of what happens because you signed a waiver. But I always will be your safety net in the area. I will rescue you I will pick you up when you fall.
How sweet. I love that. Oh, gee, the monkeys in India. I just wanted to touch on that for a second. Would you like to say anything about those monkeys in India?
Fuck 2020, man. What the fuck? This is Reuters. This is like the Associated Press, legit fact, nothing, no political bent. It just reports the facts. Reuters. I like what they do. And they're reporting that monkeys stole patients' coronavirus blood. Like, what is going on?
The monkeys stole the blood, not just one, multiple monkeys, and they ran away from the lab. They're just running free.
A lab.
Now.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought I was reading The Onion, but then I was like, well, The Onion usually has a political angle to it. I don't know what the angle here is, other than the report, the monkey stole some blood. So, yeah, that's 2020 for you. I mean, but I can't imagine how like the doctors and the lab techs in that hospital would feel. Like, we lost your blood. Gotta take it again. Like, what would they write? Like in the hospitals where like labs hemolyzed or blood hemolyzed, please redraw. What are they gonna write? Labs stolen by monkey on the medical record, which they have to write. That's what we write, when we have to redraw your blood. Like, WTF.
Seriously, WTF is right. So annoying. I read that and I was like, who do they think they're fooling?
Well, why did they report it?
I said to myself.
Like, why was that a reportable? Like, there's shit. I mean, this week has been fucking horrendous. What's going on? And like, there are important things to report on right now that pertains to my, like, me feeling safe as a person of color, and also what can I do as a person of color?
Yeah,
a privileged one.
Like that, or your opinions on that, since you did touch on it?
I mean, so my politics have, my form of activism has changed over the years. I was telling this to someone. I used to be the guy that got arrested for sit-ins and demonstrating and protesting. There's a video on YouTube where I'm literally taking a videotape of like a reverend that we hired to like keep the peace as we did a sit-in demonstration, to be like, y'all college students, I know you love getting arrested, but I'm a 60-year-old preacher. I'm just letting it. I really filmed him as he says, I advise everyone to leave because this one is not the hill to die on to get arrested on your track record. There are other things to get arrested for. This is not. And he was on our side, obviously. We had him like lead our protest. It was for like workers' rights for people of color in New York. And it's in college. And yeah, I mean, like, that's what I used to do a lot. I loved that. I was excited. But like, that's not the reason why you should do activism. Like, I was forgetting like the cause and the goals is to create progress, not necessarily to like cause a scene and stuff. But we need that still. People are very good at that, and we need that on the outside. But for me, my benefit, I thought that my abilities will be better off behind the scenes, because I have so much access to privilege as a cisgendered heterosexual alpha man, like, 6'1", authoritative as a doctor. Like, I have so many spaces of that I can just do a lot of things with by accessing it, but then in that, converting it from within with empathy and love. And it's not like they're the enemy, but they're like my colleagues that may be brought up in a different way and have a different way of thinking, and to get them on my side, to have them to love me as a friend, as a colleague, as a trusted person, then I can tell them how I feel about certain politics. And if we engage in that space, they're now giving me that, not only the privilege to their spaces, but also their hearts and minds. And I definitely have brought people around simply by just, showing them my point of view. And if we agree to disagree, there are plenty of times, but it's a remarkable how many spaces you can turn, how many like spaces only for men that you can turn feminist, right? There are a lot of spaces that are anti-queer that you can make queer accessible, like gay marriage. That was an institution that was only, people were able to convert that because they had access to those spaces, but they got people to love them, and then they flipped it without people realizing it because people wanted to. That's the civil rights movement. When people turned on their TVs and saw all this that was happening, they're like, you know what? As a Christian, as a white Christian, I don't like what's happening, what I'm seeing on TV. Let's support them, even though it's humans are emotional creatures, and that's how we're gonna get them. But we need both. So how I feel about it is fucked up. It's not new. This is not like this is all new. It's just being filmed. It's like COVID-19. Everyone's like, oh, it's black and brown neighborhoods are being affected by COVID-19. I'm like, that shit never changed. That pandemic just highlighted an already existing problem. Why do you think like the only shifts I got before this pandemic were only in predominantly underserved ER communities? It was my choice, but it's also the ones that were the least staffed. Like, it was always a problem. And it just highlighted it more. And unfortunately, it takes a pandemic. It takes cell phones and videos. It takes someone to die. It takes reposting trauma and, to make people realize that it's what's been already going on for like, since the dawn of time. And then the other issue I have is like, I'm a Asian American. I have so much privilege. My life has been really good. And it's only because of the struggles and sacrifices made by people with more melanin than I do, who are darker than I am, who died so that I can have this privilege. It's kind of fucked up that a lot of people in my community tend to look the other way. I mean, at best, repost stuff, which is fine. I mean, it's a small step, but I really think that I'm kind of done with allyship. I want accomplices, right? I don't need eyeballs. I need like hands on deck. That's why I wrote what I wrote, because I think it's important. I mean, I don't get anyone in trouble. Like if I got arrested all the time in college, I definitely would not have been a doctor. I wouldn't have access to my spaces to create change that I have done and behind the scenes. But I do think there's a sense of injustice. And like even Sean Hannity, like I don't watch him, but his program, he spent a whole hour saying how it was unjust. I don't know if you saw that. He spent a whole hour saying this was wrong. That man should not have died. The cop fucked up. The cop should be arrested. Like Sean Hannity said all that. It's that bad. But I'm like, now you realize it. But you know what? People have certain times. They're entitled to think whatever they want to think. People are dying. Do your part. I'm doing my part. I'm not. Man, I might not be on the streets. I mean, I wish I were, but that was like my glory days. But I am doing my part behind the scenes that I can't really talk about. I think the best example is Rogue One. You know Rogue One, that movie, Star Wars, Rogue One?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that designed the Death Star. Like, everybody wanted to kill him, right? He was like the guy in the suit and tie that was working for the Empire. He built a thing that destroyed planets and killed people. But he also was the guy that, like, felt guilty and engineered that secret little, whatever, that exhaust port weakness that could cause the easy destruction of his own thing, because he had to do, otherwise they will kill him and his family. But so he was able to do both worlds, but he took on the burden of being like the target by everyone. The Rebel Alliance, the Empire didn't trust him and all that thing. But he had privilege to his faces. That's how he stayed alive for so long. And his family was, everything. I mean, I was inspired by that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I am as as heroic as he is.
For your advantage to help other people.
Yeah, there are many different forms of activism, and I've definitely have changed over the years. I do miss the glory days, but I think I miss it for the wrong reasons, so I'm not gonna go back into that.
Yeah, I understand that. Oh man, and you were talking about things that you can do. You were talking about collective resiliency circles.
Oh yeah, so I mean the whole aspect of like, first of all, before we even get to activism, I think it's also important to talk about like, I'm a team player. I believe in equity. I believe in fighting injustice. I believe in progress, especially with the privileged spaces I've been giving it, turning my privileged spaces into, accessible spaces for people who don't have that privilege. But all that is not possible without taking care of yourself first, to be resilient. Like, it takes a lot of energy and effort to wear many different hats. Like, it is exhausting. I mean, it's still privilege. Don't get me wrong. I love my privilege is privilege. But it is also exhausting to like keep your eyes on the prize, to like, this is my end goal, but also not get carried away by the privilege that's being afforded to me by being a cisgender heterosexual 6'1", Asian American. Because it is easy to get sucked in and sell your soul when there's so much privilege. It's like, you know what? I like this life. Why should I make my life more difficult? But I also want to do better. I want to make it more accessible to the people who don't have that. With great power come great responsibility. That's come somewhere. But in order to do that, people jump into it without taking care of themselves first. And that can be very overwhelming because people lose a sense of themselves. They don't know where do they end and where do they begin. Like, Tony Stark is a great example of that. Like, he loves his riches. Then he goes this whole shit show, this entire arc for 10, 20 Marvel movies before he realizes that he's not a bad person. But the whole time you're all like, what an asshole. I want to hate this guy, but I can't. But I want to hate this guy. That's like for me. So collective resiliency is this idea that you can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself. When we go through something like a pandemic, we start to see all the avenues of inaccess, of injustice, like all the things that people don't have access to because of this pandemic. People get overwhelmed. They want to help, but they forget to take care of themselves. And that's why this is a long answer to your question. But when they say that a woman should focus on herself first, when a Black woman takes care of herself first, or a Black queer woman, or queer person, or trans, or a disabled person takes care of themselves first, without the need to educate the others, the able, the man, the white man, or the oppressor, the institutions, whatever you want to, forget all that, blah. Like, their job is just to take care of themselves. Don't educate people. Don't explain why, it's so tough being this and that. Just focus on yourself. that's actually considered a radical action. That's considered like you're going against the grain, because we actually expect a woman to take care of a man in this society. We expect, you know, a person of color to explain and educate, you know, a white majority, like, oh, what does it mean to be a person of color? We expect a disabled person to educate the ableness. Why? So, you know, why this is why we need handicap access. We expect the Muslim to explain to, you know, Christian whites they have to wear hijab or whatever, do Ramadan. We have to explain why a queer person or what trans means to a cisgender person. That's exhausting. That's so tiring, because they already have to live as this as a minority, let alone be expected to take care of other people, to serve them, to educate. So when I say to actually focus on yourself and take care of yourself, people, the majority, I definitely know people like, wow, how could they? How dare they? Because they're so not used to. It's kind of like the movie Parasite, right? They're people are not used to losing privilege. People do not like losing a little bit of their privilege. It's just like, what do I do? I get it. I'm one of those spoiled brats.
That all comes to expectation, right?
Yes.
Like everything comes from expectation. So like you have the expectation that this belongs to you, that you're entitled to all of this.
Oh, entitlement. Yeah.
Somebody comes up to you and says, somebody is less likely to expect something more grand than to expect what they've already had and not be okay with losing that. That's why Schitt's Creek is such a funny show.
Yeah, exactly. Entitlement is the thing that bothers me the most. Like, when someone asks me, like, what is the thing that gets my grind, is entitlement. That people will come in expecting something where the world does not work like that. Life doesn't work. Life is hard. You just be grateful for all the privilege you have. And when you lose it, because the person that you expected to serve you needs to take care of themselves, don't get upset, because that person's a human being too. So yeah, you got to take care of your own shit. So when we try to create these spaces for nurses, women, residents, doctors in training, and tell them it's okay to care about yourself. It's okay to be a little selfish and just focus on yourself and not take care of other people for once. To them, it's a radical act. To them, it's like, oh my God, I'm not used to that. I live for other people. I live to serve. I was like, yes, one thing at a time though, because if you keep doing this, you're going to run out of gas. You're going to run out of spoons. Some people use. You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself, which is one of the most difficult things to do, is to convince people to take care of themselves. So we're creating those spaces to like encourage being a little bit selfish so that you can be selfless later on. It is an order to things. Everyone wants to do everything all at once, but that's an entitlement expectation too. That's not fair to yourself. That's why I don't believe in self-esteem. Self-esteem is bullshit. Fuck self-esteem. Yeah, fuck self-esteem. Self-esteem is the idea is like, I'm an amazing person and I need to live up to this ideal. And if you think like that, you create an expectation to yourself and an entitlement that you're this beautiful, unique, like amazing human being. But I guarantee as a human being, you're inherently flawed and you will make mistakes. And when that happens, you'll be like punching yourself. You're like, oh, I didn't live up to this self-esteem. I'm a terrible human being. You start feeling ashamed, right? Guilt is feeling bad for the things you've done, but you carry on. Shame is you feeling bad for the person you are. Oh, I set this expectation for myself, this self-esteem, and I didn't live up to it, because it's inevitable that you won't make a mistake because you're human. And then you start going through this negative cycle, and then you get worse and worse and worse because you expect to do better, but because you're already on a path of just like feeling sorry and bad for yourself, this learned helplessness. Oh, I did well on a test because I got lucky, not because I studied hard or did well, right? I don't believe in self-esteem. What I do believe is self-forgiveness. Constantly, so no expectations.
No expectations.
Yeah, that you are constantly going to always try to do better, and you will make mistakes over and over and over and over again. But you love yourself enough to constantly forgive yourself if you were to make the mistake, as long as they're not hurting other people. Most people in the world are not out just to hurt people. If you make a mistake, just like things that happen at work or things that you didn't live up to, you didn't miss the deadline, or you do something that just internally makes you feel a little guilty. You stole from the cookie jar. As long as nobody got hurt. Then forgive yourself, right? And do better next time. But as long as you forgive yourself, then you're on a path to self-love, and you can crawl out of that hole much more quickly. And more people. I
also believe in forgiving others for the sake of your own self. A lot of people think like, just forgive them for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny though. We judge others by their behavior and only ourselves by our intentions. That's like the pathological extreme other end. Yeah, the road to hell's paved.
Others by, yeah, exactly. Because we don't know thinking about this, and I thought to myself, I was like, well, you know, I had a problem with friends, and I thought about it, and I was like, do I get mad, you know, and do I hold this against them because I know that this is like classic behavior? But no, because I decided, you know, as long as I know that they're a good person inside and their intentions are pure, I think that's all that should matter, because they may have flaws, but everybody has flaws. People will always let you down.
Right.
That's just inherent with life.
It also depends on the action, though. Like, a lot of people would cause an action that harms other people. So what I mean by the pathological extreme end is that it's always good to have empathy and try to figure out all their good intentions. But at the pathological extreme end is somebody actually got hurt or disenfranchised, but you didn't mean to do that. The person who didn't mean to do that would cite that they had good intentions as a defense, but the person still got hurt.
Yeah.
However, if you turn the tables, then they're like, I don't care what your intentions are. You hurt me. I'm judging you by your behavior. But if the tables will turn back again, it's like, oh, no, I had good intentions. So that's like the pathological extreme. And try not to be a dick is what I'm saying. Don't be a dick. And until you're a dick, if you do make a mistake and it doesn't hurt other people, you missed the deadline, you know, okay. Or you stole from the cookie jar once and, you know, you're whatever. Or you snuck into somewhere and you got caught. And you got reprimanded for sneaking somewhere. Nobody got hurt. Forgive yourself. Own up to your mistakes. Say you fucked up. Forgive yourself. Love yourself. And just don't do it next time. But try your best.
Agreed. Try to not repeat the same behavior, because that's just insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
That's why they say love is a form of insanity. You do the same thing over and over again out of love. Love is a temporary form of insanity, yeah. That's why people do little crazy things over and over and over again, get in the same kind of relationships, the same kind of mistakes, do the same kind of behavior out of this thing called love. Not to say it's a bad thing or a good thing, it's just an observation of human behavior. It defies all logic. Why do I go into work all the time? Love. Even though it was not safe, even though I, you know, needed some days off.
Wow. I'm glad that you know how to self-love. It's very important.
It took me like 20 years.
Traveling, that's why you know.
It took me 20 years and 10 years of traveling, but it has to be kept up. Like, if I stop traveling and I don't travel for the next year, that self-love there's nothing I do. It's like not brushing my teeth. I know I should brush my teeth, but if I stop brushing my teeth for a whole year, my teeth are going to rot no matter how much I know brushing your teeth is good for you, no matter how much I brush my teeth in my past life. You have to keep it up. You have to engage in constant good habits. I need to keep traveling. I need to keep going out there and being a good person. And I need to be honest to myself. Like, I am probably still a terrible human being. I've done a lot of shitty things in my life before my dad died and a couple years afterwards, and trying to figure myself out. But we're humans. We made a lot of mistakes, and I own up to all of them. I'm not afraid of admitting that. But I need to remind myself that I'm not this amazing human being that, you know, Instagram or social media or the news makes it out to be. Somebody asked, like, how does it feel about the news media? Well, I'm lucky that I've been on TV for a long time. I hosted a show on MTV in college. I was on BBC News for my North Korea thing. And that was an example of...
Somebody asked you, what was it like to be covered by public news?
Yeah, I've been on the news lots for how I traveled, what I did in North Korea. And it was literally like an inflection point where I knew they were trying to make me out a bad person for going to North Korea. And I can see how easily things can flip. And I'm not trying to be defensive here, but I'm pretty honest. Like, I'm a guy that went to North Korea because somebody dared me to. It was 2010. I had just started traveling, and I asked the group, where should I go? And remember that Egypt was a bet? Same with North Korea. I was like, where should I go next? And some jerk was like, hey, I bet you can't go to North Korea. And I'm like, what do I know about that country? Nothing. I don't read the news. I ended up in Egypt during the revolution without realizing it, because I lost a bet to a girl and followed after her. What makes you think I read the news to know what's going on in North Korea? It's like, I heard about it, and it's hard to get in. It's actually not. I Googled it, found out it takes 5 minutes to get my visa, got it in 5 minutes. And then they were like, you gotta pick up your visa in Beijing. It's like, okay. And I just had no idea how was a big deal. It was also 2011, so we were actually on pretty decent relations. Nobody had ever gotten jailed. Nobody had ever died in North Korea. I actually researched all that. You had a higher chance of dying in Turkey as a tourist or New York City than in North Korea in 2011. So then I went.
New York City.
Yeah. So then I went to North Korea, and it was not bad. It was one of the easiest trips I've ever been on. But then I went on the news in 2018, and then like they were like, you shouldn't have gone. Look what have you done? And I'm like, I went in 2011. All the shit that went down happened in 2016. And I asked them, so if you did something in 2011 and somebody else tried to do the same thing you did 6 years later, do you want to take responsibility for it? They're like, no. I was like, okay, then why am I here? So, yeah. I am very accustomed to being on TV in many different ways.
Yeah, I know. You do well in the public eye, limelight. You're a good talker, though, and you're honest, you know, so when you're honest and you have a lot of stories to share and you've been, like, living it up in real life and you know yourself, you know, you love yourself, then why do you even care to just, you can kind of say whatever you need to say.
Just be honest. Always tell the truth. That's
Exactly.
You can't. When in doubt, always tell the truth. And I always been on media and TV and with myself and with other people, my relationships. You can never get in trouble. Just tell the truth early too. Don't like play mind games and time things. Just be, because you're just wasting their time otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. You're wasting everybody's time. You're wasting your own time.
Yeah.
So why be anybody else but you? Just as Dr. Seuss said. I think he's the one that said it. I think we should end. We have gone for an hour and a half. We need to stop.
Has it been? Man, time flew by.
Time flies every time I have you on here, but I do have to do the theme song.
Sure.
Someone said, what did you do with MTV? Did you do something with MTV?
Yeah, I hosted a show for 4 years called The Freshman. It's on IMDb somewhere, where I would review music videos to send into rotation for the Woody Awards. And I originally didn't get the part because I was too nice. Then they changed producers, and I just became myself. I guess I was a little meaner, and they loved it. They paid me with free pizza. Sorry?
They loved you being mean?
They loved me being real. So in college, before my dad died, I was trying to be friends with everybody. I was in student council and everything, but there were a lot of people who like hated on me because I was like, he's so fake, like this, he's too nice, it can't be possible. And I'm like, why does everyone hate me? But then after my dad died, I was like, fuck you, fuck everybody. You know, I was just such an asshole afterwards. And then all of a sudden the same people were like, he's amazing, I love him, he's so real, like this is like, I want to be his friend now. And I'm just like, okay, interesting. Then I did
Really?
it.
Because you were mean?
I was just real, like just more in your face, honest. I wasn't trying to like sugarcoat anything. I didn't waste your time. Like what you were going to get in the first 5 seconds with me was the real deal, because I was mourning my dad. I was angry at the world. But that saved a lot of people time. They were just like, oh, great. Like, I know this guy. He's not wasting. I don't have to figure him out. This is what it is. I get to decide whether I want to keep hanging out with them. And most people choose to, because they rather have someone that's honest and real, that tells them what like it is, than trying to be with Prince Charming and not know for like months or years whether this guy's the real deal or not. So I did that with MTV, and they loved it, and they kept me on for 4 years when they were supposed to just keep me on for like 3 episodes. But it's one of those shows that nobody really watched. Like you're like running on a treadmill, and you look in the gym, and you're looking at the TV. It's like, oh, it's on silent and a mute, and they're like,
Right.
what was that for? And nobody really watched it.
Right. I know. Everybody's saying how much they loved the chat tonight and how amazing you did.
Thank you.
So much.
I know we're pretty awesome, right?
We're pretty awesome. People love to listen to us talk.
No, it's all you.
It's
Thank you for
awesome.
hosting me. Thanks for inviting me twice or 3 times, right? 4 times.
Oh, I love it. It's like Fridays with Dr. Sun. I mean, we talk. I'm on every night at 7, guys, but Dr. Calvin has given his time the last 3 weeks. It's like this week and then the 2 weeks before, and just given the best advice about all his experiences. And being an NYC ER doctor and a world traveler does come with that sort of stuff. So it's really awesome.
Thank you.
This is the theme song. Let's go for it. Life isn't so bad when other people are around, but you're never alone anymore with your tone. So J-O-Y, live at 7, just a next, say hi. We'll remind each other all that matters in the end is love. Sincerely be your friend. Charlie, stay out of my
Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Calvin. Everyone's saying you're amazing. Everyone's saying, Calvin,
Oh, everyone,
thank you.
Everyone who thinks I'm amazing, you're amazing. You're real people. Thanks for being you. And, yeah, thanks for being honest. Thanks for being real.
Be sweet, be tough. Remember that you're enough. Karsten, I love you. I see you there.
And Dallas, talk to you next time.
All right.
Good night.
Soon.
Be safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See you next Friday.
Love y'all.
Love y'all. We love y'all. Bye.
Good night.